Welcome to California's Sonoma, a picturesque region renowned for its world-class wines and stunning natural beauty. But there is even more to Sonoma. Nestled among its undulating hills sits the world-renowned Sonoma Raceway, which hosts the 5th round of the 2024 Ferrari Challenge season. The circuit, with its sweeping curves and vast elevation changes, offers a thrilling spectacle for drivers and fans alike. As the engines echo through the hills, anticipation builds for an electrifying Ferrari Challenge weekend, highlighting the capabilities of these awesome cars and the passion and determination of the drivers behind the wheel. Hello everyone, and as the nice man said, welcome to Sonoma Raceway. Here for day one of our Ferrari Challenge weekend. It is round 5 of our wonderful season here in 2024. Now, as you can see from that really rather damp picture, there was some rain overnight. How is that going to impact the drivers when it comes to their qualifying? Well, certainly for the first cars out on track, which will be our 488 cars, it is going to have an impact. Of that, there is no doubt. As you can see, we're reaching the sharp end of our championship for this year. Here we are at Sonoma with Indianapolis still to come before all roads lead to the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy for the Finale Mondiale being held this year in Imola. Right in the middle of October. So that is the calendar for 2024, and here we are then very much in the wine region of California. It was my pleasure and privilege to be here for the first time last year, and what a track it is. It's quite a short lap. It's very undulating, and it really tests our drivers. It's from our vantage point where our studio is, we can see virtually the entire circuit. It's one of the best commentary studio positions that we have at a racing circuit, and this is a track that is prepared to bite you on the bottom if you don't get it right. Track temperature at the moment 20 degrees, air temperature 17. We are expecting the temperatures, of course, as the day progresses to increase. Will the wind have an impact? Not at 5 kilometers per hour. I would suggest it would not. So alongside me, delighted to welcome back Justin Bell. We were together here last year. We had a great weekend. We're looking for the same this year. I mentioned just briefly the rain overnight, Justin. That's going to impact these guys who are first out on track, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Firstly, welcome everybody. Thanks for having me back. In our jobs, Dave, if you get asked back, then it means you didn't say exactly the wrong thing, although I always give it a shot. No, looking out there, I tell you, watching that wet surface, not just damp, wet surface in places, standing water a little bit. Not really. If you go towards the curbs, it brings back all those, it's like PTSD, all those memories of being a driver, cold mornings, cold tires, first cars out on track. Not my favorite moment in the roster, if you like, for any driver. Very hard to get up, have a car, get some caffeine and then get into these 700 horsepower Ferraris and head out there. So very demanding. I think you're going to think this is a very stressful session for these guys. They don't want to bin it at this stage of the weekend, yet you don't want to give up all your qualifying advantage.
And, of course, it is short and sharp with just 10 minutes on the clock. It's Justin Bell and myself. And, of course, forming part of the wonderful team is Amanda Busick. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Dave. And yeah, you guys have the best view up there in the commentary booth, but I'm pretty spoiled down here myself at Sonoma Raceway. It is one of the most gorgeous tracks here in North America with those rolling hills here in Northern California. But talking to drivers this morning, Dave, yeah, you guys talked about that apprehension of drivers facing the unfamiliar conditions out there. We've had beautiful practice sessions up until today. We have qualifying that will challenge these drivers. It's a very, you talk about the undulating hills here, that elevation elevation headed into turn 1, the hairpin in turn 7, the high-speed corners that are around this place. But it comes down to the unpredictability of what these drivers will see out on the track with these conditions. I'm still wearing my rain jacket just in case, but it does look like the weather is moving out. But you have to think that the Ferrari Challenge paddock is pretty happy that these 488 guys are out on track first to see if they can clean up this track as we get qualifying started, guys.
Amanda, as always, eminently prepared with rain jacket on, ready for whatever the weather gods will throw at us. We are expecting it to remain dry during the course of the day. Of course, temperatures will increase, as will the excitement as our shell drivers from the 488 Challenge tentatively make their first steps on this very, very demanding Sonoma Raceway. So, short, sharp qualifying, just 10 minutes, and well, drivers to watch in this, well, all 11 of them, truthfully, all capable of putting it onto the front of the pack for their race to come. Now, of course, there is a Rotiform pole position award as well up for grabs. So, and of course, a point for the pole position as well. And points make prizes, Justin, as we know.
Points make prizes. That takes me back, sitting there with my granddad watching British TV. Remember, this is going to be just like some of the very exciting qualifying we've seen in Formula One recently. The last lap will be the fastest. And obviously, they're not having to worry about, changing tires like that for that one lap. But the temperature will be up. The track will be a little bit drier. The line will start to emerge as we're watching them make their way through those beautiful S's on the way down back towards the stadium area, I call it, where our incredible Ferrari hospitality is, as they're heading in that direction. The crazy thing is, the benefit almost is that there's going to be a disparity in the driving experience here, and that allows them not just to take one line through the corners, maybe 2 or 3. Yeah. So maybe the dry line will be a little bit wider, which is eventually what you're going to want.
How much of an impact? Because as we come here to Sonoma this year, in comparison to last year, the big difference on the track, of course, is that it has been repaved. Our drivers, will they be familiar of how this track is going to dry out, how the characteristics of the circuit following that repave? We think, Justin, that some of the bumps have been ironed out, if you will. So it's kind of it's a different story that they're going to find and experience across their 10 minutes. And I say 10 minutes, we're already down to 8 minutes remaining as we watch the Brad Evans car for Ferrari of San Antonio. Almost every single lap, the track, the characteristics of the track are going to change, as you indicated.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, didn't see some of the early races. Have you had rain yet this year?
Yes.
You did?
Yes, we have.
So, it won't be the first time they felt their cars out. See it twitching there as you come out. A lot of electronics on these cars, helping the drivers come off, put the power down, coming out. And, certainly that traction control will be, giving its fair amount of intervention coming off the corners. Pirellis are very good in these conditions.
Gurdas Van Slovers, who we're watching here, he has been a real star in the 488 Challenge this year. He's taken a couple of wins already, and I spoke to him earlier on, and the man that often sits in your seat, Tony Villander, who we both know really, really well. Tony spotted Gurdas, if you will, some years ago and said there is a talented driver, and he's made his way into the Ferrari 488 Challenge. And Gurdas said, in the absence of Tony this weekend, Dave, I'm expecting a lot from you. As if I'm out there performing.
Well, in a way you are. No, but I mean, what's very impressive about this 488 series is with the resurfacing. If you want to have a true indication of how much faster the track is in the dry with this new asphalt, these guys are going the same as the Challenge cars were last year in the dry. So that is the leap that we've seen. The lap times have dropped that much, which, someone off right up at the top there, just a little bit of an understeer. They're going to be seeking their way around. Right now, you can see very tentative, just feeding the throttle on. Just every lap, you give it a little bit more, crack the throttle open just a few feet earlier.
You're on a knife edge, aren't you? Every single turn, you're just exploring the limits of where you can push. And Brad Evans at the moment is the quickest with a 1:56.043. As you predicted, we are seeing a big, big difference in the lap times early on. I say early on, we've got gaps of, some 7, 8, even 9 seconds between some of the drivers. Expect those all to come down. But at the moment, it is Brad Evans who is the fastest with a 1:56.043. There you can see the P1 on the graphics and his last lap, which was indeed his fastest lap, a 1:56.043. It gives us a benchmark against which we can measure everybody else. So Brad Evans, Matt Dalton, Enoch Hurd, Henry Hummel, Gerda Svenslovas, Stephen Chen, Dan Magnuszewski, they're all out there and they're all targeting that Rotiform pole position award as we watch the 433 car of Dalton, the Ferrari of Long Island driver, who's currently second fastest. But as you can see from the graphic stack on the left-hand side of your screen, is some 3.358 seconds down on the best time that has come from Brad Evans. And Brad is about to close out another hot lap where he'll be hoping to have taken some out of that 1:56.043. Let's see if Dalton can do the same. As you can see there, the hospitality in the backdrop of these Ferrari Challenge events, which is lavish and enjoyable and just forms part of the whole backdrop to these wonderful Ferrari Challenge weekends that we have here around North America. What a fantastic season it has been. Here comes Dalton then, and second fastest.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to get a little tighter up at the top end. Top three covered by less than a second. As I said, there's probably 3 laps to go, or 2 full laps to go. They'll probably get a third lap in. Certainly, the guys that were leading the sort of track position. But every lap will count. Every lap will get quicker. We're going to see. I mean, it wouldn't be unusual. I think it is drying pretty quickly. Very humid in the air, though. There, as you said, a 5-mile-an-hour wind isn't enough to fly a kite. So, there's not really going to dry the track in that way. But, I mean, looking down, there seems to be a little less spray coming off the cars as they head up onto the drag strip. So, I mean, that picture there, you can see definitely some water coming off. This is a very rural area. So, yes, the track has all these undulations, but it also comes off the hills.
Yes.
So, you do, in bad rain, this track is treacherous because it has rivers running across that want to take your car down a different path. So, I actually really enjoy this kind of conditions because every single time you get to the corner, it's better than it was the last time. So how brave are you? How sort of in sync you are with your car? And remember, this is only qualifying for these guys. So if you don't think you're going to be a pole runner, you also want to make sure you have your car underneath you for the race.
It's a fair point. We're 2 and a quarter minutes remaining in this qualifying session. We've got 3 drivers in the 156s. They are Brad Evans, Matthew Dalton, and Enoch Hurd then. So Ferrari of San Antonio, Long Island, and Atlanta sharing across the top 3 at the moment, all in the 156s. Enoch Hurd then hoping to improve from his current P3. I would suggest that the cumulative time is not going to be an improvement. But I've been wrong on many occasions before as he heads to break the timing beam now. 1:54.082 is the time that's just been set by Matthew Dalton, who has relinquished that P1 position from Evans, who was there for pretty much the entire session. It's now Matthew Dalton who's taken, and the gaps now are big, Justin. The gap between P1 and P2 is now very nearly 2 seconds, so it is the bravest, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, they were only covered by less than a second a minute ago, so the lap before. So this is the lap to push. 1:23 left on the clock. I think we're going to see. This is the lap to do it if you're going to try and get pole position here. As you say, there's a point for that. There's probably a little trophy, so it's certainly worth doing.
In fact, I was helping Amanda Busick with those very Rotiform pole position trophies earlier on this morning. And pride of place they take, of course, if you earn one of those. As Watkins now from Scottsdale Ferrari heads towards the timing beam, currently P9. Don't think this is going to be an improvement, but is going to be able to go again because crossed the timing line before the clock had gone to 0. Any driver that crosses the line before the clock goes to 0 means that they can do another lap. So currently P1 within class sits with the Ferrari of Long Island driver Matthew Dalton. Now there you can see Evans there just quietly going about his business, getting ready to warm up and go again, but I actually don't think he's going to make it back to the timing line to put another lap in, truthfully.
No, it takes about 20 seconds from where he is on the track right now, so it'll be pretty tight. And he also he gave track position up to the car that was on a fast lap, on a quali lap, which could have just cost him his run to get another lap in. We'll see any second as they make their way out of the horseshoe at the end there, right up against the wall. That's a pretty brave line.
So the clock has counted down to 0. The checkered flag is out. Any driver that crossed the timing line before the checkered flag came out can go again. We know Matthew Dalton has done everything that he can do. He's posted a 1:54.082. Are any of the drivers that are still out there on track going to be able to usurp that 1:54.082? Justin Bell, alongside me all weekend long, had suggested that the very quickest lap is going to come right at the end of the session. So we will see if that comes true. Stephen Chen then for Ferrari of Houston. He's certainly having a go here. It's a 1:42 as he runs into the final sequence of turns. I don't think that he's necessarily going to trouble P1. However, it is possible that he will be able to move up from his current P6 position. We will see.
A little.
P5 then, Matthew Dalton, Gerda Svenslovas, forgive me, I did say one to watch during the course of today's racing. He's put at P2. Brad Evans, who led so much of this session, P3, and has stopped now, so he will not be going again. So I think our order is done and dusted pretty much. Don't see anyone else on a huge improvement trajectory. Therefore, our Ferrari Challenge 488 Shell Drivers qualifying for this morning. The first session on track is done. If I'm honest with you, the line that we expected to become visible during that session, I don't think has quite yet.
Not quite, but you can see obviously the high load areas are where it's going to clear better.
Yes.
And that's definitely down at the horseshoe. You can see a little bit of line as they're making their way down the hill. I thought everyone did a good job there. That was not an easy session for them to be out there. Everyone kept their nose clean, and that was Venslovas did a very good lap on that last lap. And,
as you say, right at the end, wasn't
right
it?
at the end. He was really the only. Everyone else, a couple of cars did make their way. One more grid position, which counts.
Yeah, of course.
Counts when you're sitting there, and it's one less person to overtake.
A point you made that I'd like to pick up on is the fact very mature driving from all the drivers as well. As Matthew Dalton takes that P1 from Gerda Svenslovas P2, Brad Evans P3, then it's Enoch Hurd who takes P4, Dan Magnuszewski and Stephen Chen are P5 and P6, ahead of Henry Hummel and Ed Vortigyan, who takes that P8 position. Ahead of Jeffrey Keel, who takes P9, Kevin Orsini P10, and no time set by Michael Merrithew, who didn't come out into the session at all. Therefore, he will be starting from the very back of the pack when it comes within class, when it comes to the grid for the race to come a little bit later on today. We bring you so much action, it comes thick and fast with the Ferrari Challenge, because our Pirelli drivers from the 488 Challenge will be out next for their qualifying session as we zoom in on the 433 car, the Ferrari of Long Island 488 Challenge Evo machine of Matthew Dalton then, who has done a fine job in that qualifying session. Took P1, and right now he's been lined up by Amanda Busick. Let's hear from him.
Yeah, Dave, he comes into Sonoma off of that win at Watkins Glen. This will be his third pole of the season in class, and the first words out of his mouth with "that was tricky." What stressed your talents there, Matt?
Since they've repaved this track, definitely more grip in the dry, but with all the sealant, it makes it really difficult when the track's wet. So, I always tell these guys I grew up riding snowmobiles. So you got to go into snowmobile mode, which means you got to turn early and lean into it. And that's what I was doing out there. A wild trip, but that was a lot of fun.
Nice job to Matt Dalton. I do want to point out for you guys real quickly, you'll see a little bit of some precipitation coming down on these Ferraris. So as this other class gets ready to the other 488 group to go out on track, it could get a little dicey out there, guys. There might be a lot of driving with those butts that drivers like to say on track.
Thank you, Amanda. So Matthew Dalton then, good to hear from him, and very interesting what he was saying. You go into snowmobile mode. Now, you've raced a lot of things in your career. Have you done a snowmobile, Justin?
No, I haven't. I imagine if you've raced one of those, this feels a bit like a cakewalk out here. But I'm very impressed. Amanda doing her best local weather news in precipitation. I tell you what, I don't even know that many vowels in one word. But yeah, it's all in the air, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, the cloud is still around. We can see from our commentary position, and you can see above hospitality there on screen. It's still very grey and very dark, and that's precisely where we are located. If you wave now, JB, they'll see you. There you go. At the Sonoma Raceway. Now, you can see wipers going then as the first of our Pirelli cars come out on track. Now, some very interesting storylines in the 488 Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli class, and the standout story has got to be about a young whippersnapper called Massimo Barina, who, Justin Bell, has won every single race in class this season. Young guy, very, very humble and very nice young man, and here we can see him center screen right now, an absolute demon in the car. Really, really does know how to drive for Ferrari of Seattle. I was speaking to his dad yesterday, and Massimo has just been an absolute joy to watch.
My God, look at he looks so young. But I can just tell you, the attitude of the car coming out of the pit lane, he went straight to push. He drove out, he was seeking the grip. Look at him all the way through there, twitching.
Whoa.
That takes, you know, our men's brains don't fully mature till you're 25, 26, so that's why you become a good racer driver when you're in your teens. You know, or a soldier. That's why we go. That's why we do that. Just see the way he's pushing the car. It's got attitude. There's two ways of dealing with the track when you go out there. You're either behind it in these conditions, or you try and get ahead of it. And it requires a lot of self-confidence and confidence in your car to be able to get up on the wheel straight away. And there's no wonder, actually, looking already why he's won these races. It'll be interesting to see what lap time he pushes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching him race.
Yeah, he has been a standout star. There is no doubt about that, and is destined for good things in this wonderful world of motorsport that we love so much. As we're watching him right now. Oh, as you say, he's just testing the limits of adhesion. Just a little bit of opposite lock applied as he controlled the slide as he crosses the timing line now, and after just one out lap, he's going to go for a push lap. You can see that, and you can see that in the attitude of the car and the driver combo that you so talked about.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Technically, this group will be a little slower than the cars that we saw at the beginning, or not?
Completely the reverse.
Oh, is it? Because these guys are going to slaughter the times of the guys we just saw.
These
Okay.
should be the quicker of the two classes.
I'm telling you, his lap will be immediately faster than Dalton's, I think, out there. This guy is on it already. It's very interesting to see. Okay, that's how it works.
Right, we're being informed that Amanda doing her best meteorological forecasting.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd throw that in there
I
to
think
give
it's
you another
another
good
long
word.
word. Yeah.
It's really raining very heavily now,
yeah.
so Massimo is skating the car around, as you can see.
That's a retraction on what I just said then, Dave. He will not slaughter the times of Dalton, but he's really, you see the wipers on right now. He's still pushing it. This is fun to watch.
Yes. It is fun to watch. So let's see how the drivers and teams react to the fact that the rain is coming down. Actually, we can see it from our studio now. It's teeming down.
Yeah.
And there you can see on screen, the haze as once again he power slides the car around. I tell you what, you've got to have large, round, spherical things, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I know. They're not hanging from his wing mirror. I mean, look at it. It's he's doing really, really well. It's fun to watch. Yeah, tweaking a little bit there as he goes through the tight hairpin, picking it up on the way out.
So let's just take a look at the time for reference purposes, if no other reason, as he crosses the timing line with a 1:51.526. So staying out there, hasn't come in to necessarily make any adjustments to the rubber that he's running, but this is going to be a tricky session for our guys out there. Now, following him to fine effect is Jason McCarthy, who, as I was extolling the virtues of Massimo Barina, who's taken every win, Jason McCarthy has taken every P2.
Okay.
So
right now he's doing very well in these conditions. He was actually 2 seconds clear of Barina on that outlap.
Well, I was going to say, could this be the weekend for Jason McCarthy, who's doing double duty because he's racing in the 296s as well? Jason is a more experienced driver than Massimo. And we would suggest, or it would suggest, from the difference in times of 2.3 seconds between P1 and P2, Jason is digging deep in all his experience to be able to sail this car around the track a tad quicker than Massimo.
Yeah, it does definitely draw on experience if you do have that, especially in the wet. I mean, that's quite a big leap. But in the wet, the delta between cars can be unexplainably large. 2 seconds means maybe he just had more confidence coming off the corner in a couple of places and got to the gas better. I mean, that's obviously what happened, but
could also mean, if forgive me interrupting you, he could be on a different set of tyres, couldn't he?
There is that.
Whether drivers went out on slicks, whether some have decided to go out on the wet weather tyres, that's where you can see this big difference, or bigger than you would expect sometimes. So it is Jason McCarthy from Massimo Pirelli, then it's Gray Falva. Then it's Sherlock and Broughton and Porter and Eric Pan. Then they are the top 7 at the moment. The time's on the left-hand side of your screen. Let's go down live into the wet weather conditions down there in the pit lane with Amanda Busick. What can you tell us, Amanda?
Dave, I think you were making a little fun of me earlier that I was prepared with my rain jacket, but I'm not getting laughed at now down here. We're next to Scuderia Corsa as they're getting ready for some of the Copa Shell class drivers, and all of the drivers are wearing wet tires at the moment. Points leader Eric Marston has his on. Lisa Clark will go out on wet tires as well when we get this underway, but we were talking at the top of the show how a lot of the paddock may have wanted that 488 class to clean this track up. Well, now I bet they're wishing they were in that time group for qualifying. So it's going to get interesting out here, but hey, it's challenging and it's fun here at Sonoma, and we'll be ready for it.
Thanks so much, Amanda. There you can see the wet weather tyres going on to the Eric Marston car, just as Amanda Busick predicted there. And that's one of the 296 cars that will be out momentarily because we've only got 3.5 minutes of this session remaining. Now, Massimo Pirelli has got within 0.3 of Jason McCarthy's time in really challenging conditions right now. So it is Jason McCarthy P1, Massimo Pirelli P2. Then it's Logan Broughton, Gray Falva. Then it's Sherlock and Porter P5 and P6 at the moment. So here is Sherlock then. Doing a very, very good job in P3 currently. So with less than 3 minutes remaining, here's Massimo Pirelli, who will want to wrestle that P1 position away from Jason McCarthy. It's probably going to be a big ask, but he's going to go for it. Let's see what he can do as he is about to round out this lap.
Yeah, I mean, now we're in this full wet conditions. The anxiety about the threshold of grip has gone a little because you are running as a wet session. And
oh, Massimo Pirelli, look at that, he's done it.
That's a beautiful lap. I mean, I've noticed you could see some of the experience coming in. They're seeking rain lines. Sometimes that means you go wider, you don't hit the apex, you go around the outside trying to pick up grip. I'm wondering what that's like when you're dealing with a new track surface. Traditionally, when the surface is more bedded in, all the rubber, all the oil, everything's lying on the racing line. And if you run wide around a corner, you actually are able to pick up grip in certain places. It's sort of counter-thinking, and that's why you will see drivers, and in Formula One, taking a much wider radius around a corner, trying to seek that grip on the outside, especially with these bank curves that we have so much here. Trying to play the camber game, coming across the line there. For Broughton, that's good. Oh, that was a very nice lap too. I mean, look, the top 4 cars separated by a second. I think we're starting to see the leveling out of what the lap times are.
You make a very fair point. So, Titus Sherlock then on his debut, to the best of my knowledge, in Ferrari Challenge with a P3 position, of which he should be justly proud, I would suggest. But Massimo Pirelli then, and Jason McCarthy must just think, what have I got to do? So Michael Porter then for Ferrari of Seattle takes a very different line through that turn, and of course the weather conditions allow you to take different lines, and in fact you'll probably benefit. Now Jason McCarthy then is trying to respond to the time of 1:48.870, which was set by Massimo Pirelli. So, and we've got a red flag. So it's Michael Porter that has.
Well, he's on the barrier up there. So his car, he had a nasty off and is at 45 degrees. He'll be fine. Don't worry, the driver in that kind of an incident will be absolutely fine. But
was McCarthy on the trajectory to take it away from Pirelli? Of course, we'll never know. I mean, red flag coming out when you're mere meters from the timing line.
well, if I was behind the wheel, I'll tell you I was about to get pole.
Of course you would.
Just before the red flag. Emergency rescue vehicles getting to the car very quickly. Everybody here, this is what they do. This is one of the best tracks in the country. It's probably more ego and a little bit of an expensive bodywork damage, I think we're going to see. But it just shows the ground here is very wet overnight. Not soaked, but wet enough, and you pick up speed when you leave the asphalt. So, anyway, they've been pushing right to the edge of grip all the way around, and that was our first little off that we've seen today.
Well, the integral safety of these 488 Challenge cars is superb, and we know that Michael Porter will be fine. The Ferrari of Seattle, you can just see where the car is pitched on the tyre wall there.
I mean, when you say to the valet, park it out front, that's not what you're looking for, is it? I mean,
no. This session is not going to restart, I would suggest, and Massimo Perena, who I was, waxing lyrical about the success that he's had this season, that continues even when the conditions are as challenging as they are. And he's such a remarkable young man, and he has done enough. Let's get the results of this session then, and Massimo Perena once again takes the Rotiform pole position award ahead of Jason McCarthy. Very good showing from Titus Sherlock. Logan Broughton P4, Gray Falver P5, Michael Porter P6, Eric Pan P7. I remind you, the Pirelli drivers in the and there is Michael is perfectly okay, as you can see, but let's take a look exactly, Justin, at how this happened there.
too much curb on the left.
Painted lines, wasn't it?
Yeah, we are mother.
Actually,
that was a much bigger incident than I thought.
The car rolled.
Wow, you'll feel that one. Oh, geez. Look at that. Just shows how beautifully strong these cars are.
Yes.
Look at that. The roofline is absolutely untouched.
Untouched, isn't it?
Yeah, that gives you confidence. You know what he did? He just caught the left curb, and they have been running the curbs, but it got real wet that lap.
Your experience, because everyone tells me, racing driver-wise, that in the wet, painted lines are very, very different to the regular tarmac that you race on. You know, it's like just lumping onto a piece of ice.
It is, but it sometimes even I get confused when I'm watching like Formula One, and I go, they're running the paint on the exit of corners. I can't understand it. But you know, in sports cars, we've always been like, just give them a break. Don't go there. Give yourself just another couple of feet on the apex. That's also a little cambered curb there.
Okay.
And it was a combination of him just running up on that, and he will be as surprised as the rest of us to see him going off there. It just snatched the car around.
Yeah.
In a very hard acceleration zone.
Yes.
As he makes his way down the hill. So unfortunately for him, it was the consequences of just touching a curb. But I'm sure that message has rippled down the pit lane.
I'm sure you're right.
All the crew chiefs will be telling their guys, just don't touch the lines.
Yes, and we'll see if they all take heed. There will be a momentary lapse before we can go back to qualifying, but in the meantime, it's another success story for Massimo Perena, who is with Amanda Busick.
Hey, Dave. Yeah, he keeps batting 1,000 here this season, picking up every accolade he can so far in that Ferrari 488. I hate to tell you, I was walking here. Your pole award picked up a little precipitation on it, as well as your Ferrari did. Describe the challenge that this track is currently in these conditions.
Well, I think the pole award itself tells the story with all the rain on it. It started as damp because it rained quite early this morning, and then it just started coming down. It wasn't in the forecast. We didn't prepare for it. And so the race was on to set a lap before it got really wet, and no one was going to set anything faster. As
I was walking here, I could see the apprehension on some of the faces of the drivers that are yet to qualify today. What would you tell them about the track currently?
Well, that's between me and all my teammates, because I got a little bit of some secrets for them, because the go fast secrets.
No advice in these conditions. Not giving a signal.
No, I'll give it to you after quali, though.
Well, good luck to the drivers ahead for Massimo Perena.
He is a star in every regard. Massimo Perena then does it again, puts it on pole position, and as we anxiously await our 296s to make their way out onto the track, let's take a look back at what happened last round, Watkins Glen. This weekend, the Ferrari Challenge North America has descended upon Watkins Glen for the 4th round of the 2024 championship season. Who will master this old school circuit and emerge victorious? Only time will tell. So that's what it was like at Watkins Glen, and this is what it's like here at Sonoma. And as you can see from the track surface and the ripples being made by the raindrops continuing to come down, we see Jan Bernier there just anxiously awaiting going out on the track for what is going to be challenging. And Massimo Perino was prepared to give nothing away, although he may have done to Jan, who of course is a teammate.
Funny, I've just got a text from one of the crew chiefs, guy I've worked with before. Can you see standing water from where you are? So the spiders are weaving their webs to find out any advantage they can. I just texted back and said, keep your guy off the curbs, because this is a very demanding track. It's going to be interesting because obviously with the other groups we've got coming up, the 296s next, all you can do is use the guys in front of you as the benchmark.
Yes.
And yes, different cars, but the track conditions, what tires they're using, obviously full wets right now, they're going to be keeping an eye on that. And with no wind, unfortunately, this little rain cell that just came over the top, which I thought was quite unexpected. I'm sure on the team radar, weather radars, they can see it coming in. But it actually put the track back about an hour. I would have said by our last qualifying session this morning, they would have had a very dry line. And it would have been almost, full dry lap times. Now, it's set it back probably at least about 45 minutes, I'd say.
What's going to happen here is it could provide for a real shake-up in the order, which will really envelop entertainment when it comes to racing, because you with your racing background and now your fine broadcasting career, I've never raced in a meaningful way. I've dabbled and failed miserably. But from an entertainment spectacle, I love the theatre of having very short, sharp qualifying sessions, because you've got to get it right from the off. You've got to be out there and mean business immediately. It is going to be more difficult for the drivers to be able to do that now. There's no question. I don't think we're going to have a long period of time whilst the
they're loading it onto the trailer over there, Dave, and they've got to also repair the tire wall.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. There you are. As you see. That's the advice. You have your company name down the side of the car is a great thing, and then it's not a great thing. And you wish you had a removable decal on the side when it goes in the wall and gets loaded on the trailer. I think I love the way you just said that. The shake-up in the order, we see it in every form of racing. You go, it's not the underdog. It's actually sometimes a guy or girl can just get it right in the wet conditions. Maybe you're not the fastest guy in the dry, but when it comes wet, you maybe have a bit more feel. Maybe your driving style, you've got softer hands. You're able just to keep the level of grip better than the guy that's a bit more aggressive. And you could be further up the grid than you normally are, which allows for a great race.
And dare I say it, comparing you and me, you're svelte and thin, and I'm not. Actually, a little bit more weight in the car in wet weather conditions. This is where I used to be able to hold my own, as it were.
Yeah, Dave, tell yourself that all day long. In go-karts, in these kind of cars, I mean, Definitely in Formula cars, you gain something. I have a sneaky suspicion that these cars are running pretty much the way they are. But I do tell you that if you have smooth hands, you don't trigger all the electronics through the corners. By all sideways the whole way. You're creating a lot of aggressive intervention from the electronics. It's a fine line. Too soft, too smooth. You're not going to be the one that gets to the front. We saw that with young Perina. He was out there just twitching and sliding right from the beginning, and there he is at the top of the charts.
One of the most experienced drivers in the Ferrari Challenge and long-standing star of the Ferrari Challenge is Mike Lully, who I believe is with Amanda Busick now.
Dave, I believe that's the perfect description. I was just talking to Mike off camera about he's going to celebrate 30 years in Ferrari Challenge this season. And I bet that means you have quite a bit of experience behind the wheel of a Ferrari in conditions like this. How will that experience help you today?
It really helps. I like the rain here, but different cars. It'll be your first time in the 296, so it should be interesting. I enjoy the rain. I just wish I had a bit more time in 10 minutes, but it should go well. Should go well. Just be careful, and new pavement too, so it's hard to see where the lines are, but I look forward to it.
When we talk about coming up onto the milestone of 30 years, you think about racing in the Ferrari Challenge Series with so many drivers over the years and so many drivers racing against you. What's been some of the highlights for you in your tenure with Ferrari Challenge?
Well, probably I started with 348. 355 did really well, then 360. And you meet really great people over the years, and it's always been Ferrari support that makes us different than anything else. So really enjoyed it, and especially when you go to Italy, it's just another world,
Which you guys will be headed there soon. Tell us about the 296 in these conditions.
I don't know much yet. No, the car itself seems to be better handling, so I think it'll be much better than the 488.
All right, guys, drivers are continued to be challenged here today, and congratulations to Mike Louie on 30 years in Ferrari Challenge.
He is one of the nicest drivers, and I remember when I first joined the North American Ferrari Challenge, Mike was one of the first drivers that I spoke to, and very, very lovely. Here is Jerry Walters. Jerry has been doing a great job in the 296 and in the 171 car. She has... she's been on the podium a couple of times. The winners he eluded thus far, but you certainly wouldn't bet against Jerry Walters being able to take a P1 both in qualifying and in a race to come. She really has been so good in these cars. The 124 car is driven by Steve Cech for Ferrari of Rancho Mirage, who has been a winner this season. I think if my memory serves me, it was at the opening round at the Circuit of the Americas. I think race 2 he took a win. So we've got the cars of the Shell AM in the 296s now. When it comes to racing, you'll be able to identify those cars with the black strip across the top of the windscreen. So they're making their way out. The recovery teams did a good job, and the repair teams did a good job getting that tyre barrier back. And we are ready with this qualifying session as Brian Waltersdorf in the 111 car is on his way. So let's see how the track evolves then. I think, looking out of our studio window, that the rain has perhaps abated, Justin.
Yes, I think it's... precipitation has backed off. But it is definitely still a factor if you're running behind someone. There's a lot of spray coming up, a lot of downforce on these cars kicking up. So Waltersdorf definitely up the front coming down the hill as I'm watching now. He has no spray on his windshield. But the car behind will be. So, that's a little factor at the beginning, but they're not going for their fast lap right now.
No.
This will be the same. The rain has stopped. The last couple of laps will be your best. So stay out there. That's what they'll be being told on the radio. Stay out there. Focus on your lines. Focus on the grip level. Push every lap. Push every little bit more in every corner.
Yeah.
And just stay consistent. Don't scare yourself. Don't put yourself into a compromised position. See where you end up at the end. It's a little bit of a lottery.
Keep off the paint, I think, will be one of the bits of advice. And you're so right. If you're at the front of the pack, you can just focus on every apex that's going to approach you. If you're running in traffic and that spray is coming against you, that is an absolute nightmare. Roger Monteforte then, Gabe Harib, and Brian Waltersdorf now climbs uphill in the Triple One car for Continental Autosports. And he's going to give us our first timed lap. And you can see from the underneath of the car how there is so much water now coming off. I mean, these tyres do a wonderful job. I mean, I did have the figures somewhere, but I won't be able to pull them to hand. The amount of water that they are able to dissipate is just extraordinary.
Yeah, it's liters per second the way it works in heavy rain. And you remember, there's a transfer of technology all the way down for Pirelli from Formula One into these cars. The compounds, the constructions,
yes.
they learn a lot in international motorsport, which finds their way onto these cars and then eventually onto the road cars. Nicely letting him by. You can tell that they were on hot laps, so making his way down. You see the spray, that'll be the marker. The spray on the top side of the track is not as great as it is down here on the pit lane into this horseshoe sequence.
There he is, Roger Monteforte. Then he's got traffic ahead of him, which is going to compromise his progress. And that's Dana Goodwin, the Ferrari of Seattle driver, and Roger Monteforte there together. And Roger Monteforte driving for the Ferrari of Central New Jersey team. Dana Goodwin for Ferrari of Seattle, which of course is not so far away from here, as Roger is able to make his way through and therefore get about his business then in qualifying. Roger's had a fine run of success. He's taken wins in the last 3 races as Jeff Nunberg goes to the top of our qualifying pile, if you will, at the moment, with a time of 1:55.115 in the 141 car. So Jeff Nunberg then, P1 currently, but right now, Roger Monteforte is certainly not someone that you would bet against at the moment. And what does it do to you as a racing driver, Justin, when you've come off at the back of 3 wins on the bounce, and before that a couple of P2s and another win? Your confidence presumably is sky high. Does that give you a 10th when you go into a qualifying session saying, I know I can do this, I know I can nail this?
A 10th and more, actually, Dave. You just arrive at the weekend with this different level of expectation. Your mechanics, they know that you've rewarded their hard work by getting the car onto the top step of the podium. They know that you've been pushing it hard, extracting the most. It basically galvanizes everyone in the team, and coming into qualifying like this, it's wet, so your confidence has to go in a different direction. But definitely, if you come off the back of some great results, you just expect it out of yourself, and you expect they expect it out of you. So it's actually a positive pressure. If you're leading the championship and everything's a bit twitchy going into the last race, that's called pressure. Right now, you're just going, all right, let me just try and rack up another win.
Paul Lynn crosses the timing line now. You will recall earlier on I was bigging up Jerry Walters, who has done a fine job this season and continues with that fine job, as put it P2. So she has certainly found how she can master these conditions. A time of 1:57.119 gives Bubbles, Jerry Walters, P2 at the moment. So Jeff Nunberg, P1 currently. Then Brian Waltersdorf has just set a lap, which is good enough for P3. And we have under 4 minutes of this session remaining. And there are some 11 cars out there on track. Now, I'm not saying it's traffic induced, but there are cars out there all the time, as Jerry Walters trying to improve then on that previous best time of 1:57.119. Not necessarily going to do it on this time. No. And
that's what happens in these wet conditions. You push a little harder, run a little wider, get a little sideways, and you actually take time off. So she'll reset. And I mean, you said about the cars in traffic a second ago. Good point. The track is dirty. That water, you do not want to be behind someone. With only 3 minutes to go, if you're stuck up the chuff of someone else, your crew would say either go by him or give yourself some space. Yeah.
Roger Monteforte then has found 9/10 out of Jeff Nunberg's time. And he was tracking Melissa Kozira, who's another star in the Ferrari Challenge. And Roger Monteforte then has continued that rich vein of form and has delivered a 1:53.836, as I say. And from hero to zero, you can go very quickly.
Yeah.
Roger gathered it up, thankfully, but he was just pushing a little bit too hard, Justin, climbing up the hill?
Yeah, and that means he knows he's got his lap. They will have told him that. He was just trying to capitalize and run 2 in a row. I mean, he shouldn't rest on his laurels, though. He's got time to get another lap in.
Yes.
There's some fast people out there with a slightly improving track. I can see the track marks coming up as they exit the long left-hander all the way up onto the back straight as they leave the stadium area here. Look at that line. It's not a dry line, it's a drying line.
So Jeff Nunberg hugs the concrete then and stays P2 for the 141 car at the moment. So Roger Monteforte, then Jeff Nunberg, Jerry Walters, Brian Waltersdorf, they are the top 4 currently with 1 3/4 minutes remaining. Here is Jerry Walters then as we watch her through this horseshoe then, taking a slightly different line where sometimes in wet weather conditions that can pay dividends. Now she follows the wheel tracks of the others that have carved out that drying line, doesn't improve, stays P3 for the Ferrari of Vancouver driver.
I think she'd be very happy if she was in the top 3 at the end as this closes out, but with at least another lap on the board. Some people are going to be have 2 effectively. It is improving bit by bit. The skies are getting brighter. From our beautiful eagle's nest up here, we can see it's definitely the cloud cover is dissipating. I can see little patches of blue.
David Williams then, currently 5th fastest. Big shout out to Melissa Kozera then for Ferrari of Naples, who's just put it P3.
Whoa.
So great job done by Melissa then, P3. I was speaking to Melissa yesterday. Haven't seen her today yet, but we were here very early on. And here is Helen Shue, who's 8th fastest with a best lap of 1:57.495 thus far. There's still 26 seconds left on the clock. And those that cross the timing line before the clock has counted down to 0 will be able to go again. Melissa Kozera then, P3. Think, if my memory serves me, this will be her best qualifying. The conditions to Melissa's liking then, the striking livery on this 296 Challenge car. And Melissa then, who raced just last season in the Club Challenge and into the full Ferrari Challenge this year and has done a fine job in my opinion. So Jeff Nunberg, Roger Monteforte. So Jeff Nunberg has just gone P1 then. Roger Monteforte's not going to respond. So Nunberg then with a 1:53.315, 5 tenths between P1 and P2. Roger Monteforte. Then it is David Williams, then Melissa Kozera. So Jeff Nunberg for the moment then in the 141 car. I don't see anyone bettering Jeff Nunberg, so it'll be a Rotiform pole position award for the Ferrari of Central New Jersey driver. And credit to all the drivers, if I may say, Justin, because they've coped with these conditions really, really well.
Yeah, it was a great qualifying, and Nunberg to slip it in there. We did see Monteforte run wide.
Yeah.
That that's rubbish on the tires. Takes you out of your rhythm, puts a little bit of hesitance in you. The next lap you come through the same corner, and that was a very fine qualifying lap up at the front.
Dana Goodwin improves 1 place. Melissa Kozera then crossed the timing line 3rd fastest. So great job done by Melissa and Jerry Walters, P4. So 2 ladies together there, P3 and P4. Great qualifying from them as we look at the 188 car of Dana Goodwin, the Ferrari of Seattle driver. And pick up on the Paul Lynn car, 195 then. P11 for Paul Lynn. So, yeah, credit to all the drivers. There you can see the wheel tracks there of that, as you say, that drying line. And actually, as I cast my eyes out of the window now, you're right, there's some patches of blue beginning to show through.
Literally, I mean, I thought every car was coming in the pits, but Lynn here somehow managed to cross the finish line with a few seconds to spare and actually has got an entire lap more, which he just completed.
Yes.
Feels like the flags dropped about 3 minutes ago, but actually it just shows how it works.
So Jeff Nunberg, Roger Monteforte, Melissa Kozera and Jerry Walters, the top 4 then for our Shell AM drivers in the Ferrari Challenge, driving these wonderful 296 cars, and we await the Shell drivers to come out on track then for their qualifying session. Again, 10 minutes on the clock. Let's take a look at the results, the confirmed results for Shell AM right now, though, as they will appear as if by magic on the screen in front of you. Jeff Nunberg taking that P1 position ahead of Roger Monteforte, and then I think the best qualifying session we've seen from Melissa Kozira. Well done. Jerry Walters P4, David Williams P5, Gabe Harib P6. Then it's Helen Shue and Brian Waltersdorf then occupying the top 8 places ahead of Dana Goodwin, Steve Check, Paul Lynn, and the driver that didn't set a time is Neil Langberg. So Neil will be starting from the back of the Shell AM pack when it comes to racing this afternoon. So the Shell drivers make their way tentatively out there on track. A very, very competitive field of cars. Each of them vying for the very best position that they can garner during this qualifying session. It comes short, sharp, fast, and very, very quick as well. Mike Luley, who we heard from just a few moments ago, being chased up the hill by Ray Acosta, who's doing a lot of racing this year, Justin, because he's competing in Europe as well. He and I were discussing at breakfast the Nürburgring, which is where he will be going next. But Jeff Nunberg for the qualifying session of the Shell AM drivers put it on P1. He is with Amanda Busick.
Have at it. And he just said, my first one, and there must be something about growing up in Miami with these conditions. And Jeff, I saw you just ahead of this sessions, and you had like this confidence to you. Were you expecting these results?
No, absolutely. You know, the rain, you never know what you're going to get, but I figured I'd go out there and give it my best shot.
The conditions cleaned up as we were into this session. How did the track evolve?
Yeah, I don't think the track evolved at all. It's pretty wet down here. The car's moving all over the place into turn 11. It's kind of scary. You're sort of a passenger down there a little bit. So it was good, though.
You're a driver that's also one of our, can I say, veterans out here.
Oh, the hair qualifies.
Picking up your first pole here in the series. How hard have you been working for this?
Pretty hard. My coach beats me up every day. I got the great coach, Bruce McQuiston, and I owe this all to him because he really just trained me well to drive in the rain.
Well, as Jeffrey takes us in, I do have to say that when we got over here, the whole team was in applause for that accomplishment, and one of the team members said, wow, he really earned that.
Thank you so much, Amanda. You and I were talking to Bruce just yesterday, and well done to Jeffrey Nunberg then, and there he is being congratulated.
He said his coach, I think I just heard, was Bruce McQuiston, I've known Bruce a long time. I saw him yesterday. Well, we were together when we saw him. One of the wily old cats who probably gave him some pretty good advice on how to handle this. But as you heard him say, you're a bit of a passenger coming down into this final complex.
And that's an interesting, because the final complex is the lowest part of the track, Justin.
Yes.
So that is going to be the part that dries out the least quickly.
Yeah, and it's between the concrete walls, seep water underneath, and it's the drainage. I mean, these guys know how to drain the track, but I do want to give this series a shout out. You guys don't mess around. I mean, one session finishes and the next one goes out. I mean, it's some of the best race management that I've ever seen. Well done to you guys over there in that room to the right of us. Just shows this is it's Ferrari, right?
Absolutely.
It's very efficient and get it done. I wonder how they're feeling out there now, seeking their way around.
Well, the lines will dry out still further. I was mentioning Ray Acosta. We just saw him. There's Mike Luley. And then this is one of the most distinctive cars out there on track from Robert McWilliams. I love the color scheme. It's just awesome, isn't it?
It's very pop art. It's like, reminds me of art cars.
Yes.
Art cars are raising huge prices at auctions these days, in the classic car world. And I tell you what, that car's right up there. Whoever did that paint job, whatever they're on, I want some.
Well, that car has been victorious this season as well in the hands of Robert McWilliams. He took a win back there in when we were supporting the Formula One effort at Montreal in Canada in conditions which were similar to here. At the moment, Chuck Whittle has gone fastest. Make that Ray Acosta right now, who's gone quickest of anyone with a 1:48.816. So the times are coming down now. As you said earlier on, Justin, this is happening perhaps 45, 50 minutes later than we anticipated.
Yeah, they would have been on full slick, all-out, flat-out attack if it had been without that rain cell. Hey, listen, deal with what you've got. You can see them running a little wider, trying to seek for better purchase, better grip coming off that corner. I love starting a new lap around here. You reset, you recalibrate. You're like, okay, let's do it this time. I knew what I did, turning into the left-hander, carrying the speed up into using the incline, using the gradient there, braking later, much later than you think you normally can, because you've got the energy, the physics pushing the car down, and you roll the car over the top. I mean, it's I feel like I'm on a simulator just sitting here. It's actually quite exciting. Actually, can you give me a steering wheel?
I
Just a
could do
pretend
that.
one.
Yeah.
Maybe our producer could go and get me one from Toys R Us, and I could just sit here turning the wheel. Would that impress you?
Yeah, it would.
Would it? I'll put you on one of those little three-wheeler things.
Oh,
and
thanks.
You could go around here.
Yeah, I've got my own little trunky behind.
With your
I'll be
headset on.
Wheeled around by Justin Bell. How lovely. Ray Acosta, John Viscup. Now, Ray and John, very much teammates. And, yeah, very interesting. They're P1 and P2. Chuck Whittle and Rob McWilliams then. P3 and P4 ahead of Jan Bernier and Bruce Cleveland. Bruce Cleveland, a local driver. Then it's Mike Luley, Osvaldo Gallo. Then it's Cadenzi, Clark Green, and series leader Eric Marston yet to put in a meaningful lap, but he will.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
You're going to watch him pop up during the session?
Yes. And Eric has had another a very, very good season. And, you know, he comes here on the back of 2 wins at Watkins Glen. He'll be wanting to put it to the sharp end of this qualifying as we pick Eric Marston up right now.
Just watch everybody at home for the attitude of the car. We just saw Costa going through there. You can see the car is twitching a little, seeking. In the dry, you don't see that as much, especially with the threshold of grip these cars have. But in the wet, if you want to go fast, you're going to be feeling the car adjusting all the way through the corners. And that's what you're looking for. You can see literally the energy of a car changes when they're on a hot lap.
So here is Eric then, who's going to start a hot lap right now. He's already improved a huge amount of places, up to P7, but that's not where we expect to see Eric Marston. So this will be a hotter lap. Let's say the lap previous was tepid by comparison to what he can deliver, but he has got to deliver it as John Viscup, who is P3 at the moment for Boardwalk Ferrari. And there you can see the twitchiness of the cars.
Yeah, you want to go from the cup of tea you had yesterday to the one your mum would have made. That's what you want to think about a lap round here. He had tepid tea yesterday, everybody, and the look of disgust on Dave's face, he barely could get over it. But we have regrouped, and we are now here. Look at that. That's fun. I like that paint job, actually.
I was talking to John at breakfast earlier on, and yeah, John is a fine character, fine driver, and he was relishing this Sonoma weekend. I wonder if perhaps he was relishing it a little less when the rain comes down. Don't know, some drivers really like these conditions, the challenge of these conditions. Some, not so keen. Jan Bernier is 5th at the moment, just behind Osvaldo Gallo. He's coming into the final stadium section of this Sonoma Raceway right now. Mike Luley is currently P10. And here is Mike Luley then, hard on the brakes right now. The drying line is getting wider and certainly is a different colour. But then the lowest part of the track right here, you can see how there's still plenty of standing water, and that spray is being like projectile off the back of the Mike Luley car.
Well, you've got 2 minutes left, so this is your time to put a lap in. As you say, we've got some people that have historically been very quick in qualifying that need to make their way to the front. And
this being one of them.
The natural, yeah, Marston will get there. He's got the perfect timing now to start a good push lap, crossing with just 1.5 minutes on the board pretty much. As you can see the car, as he makes his way up that little incline there, time to be gained rolling the car in. Okay. Instead of really hard braking, coming off and waiting to get the gas, you really want to carry a high, medium speed through the whole corner. That's how you do it in the wet, and we're going to see what he's able to pull. Everybody's going to want to try and get this last lap.
Yes, and of course you put the pressure upon yourself because you've only got a lap to deliver. You can ill afford to make any error at all. John Viscup is 3rd fastest, Ray Acosta 2nd fastest. Here is Ray Acosta. Chuck Whittle, though, is P1 in the 166 car. Ray Acosta is trying to respond. Cumulative time 1:29 right now. He's looking for a 1:48.194 sub time, and that would put Ray Acosta in P1.
He's in a good position right now. Coming off there, Let's see where he goes. It's a longer run to the start. The flag is right in front of us, but that is...
Oh,
just
2
off.
tenths. 2.5 tenths. So Ray Acosta stays P2. Here comes the 1-2-3 car of Robert McWilliams then.
He will not be doing it coming off there at 42 seconds. It's about a 10-second run from the apex of that, it looks like, to there.
You make a fair point in that line, that laser beam across there is a little bit further away than you would think. And it is, as you say, it's a bit of a run there. So Robert McWilliams, Bruce Cleveland's improved, so too is Jan Bernier. What about Eric Marston? He's the one we want to pick up on. He, as Lisa Clark now heads into the stadium section. Lisa Clark is currently P12, of course, last year's Pirelli AM champion, the driver of the 127 car. Target time of 1:47.710. Eric Marston has crossed the timing line and is only 7th fastest.
I presume he will not be happy with that.
Don't know. I suspect not. His rich results would suggest that we were expecting, and I certainly, for one, was expecting a better qualifying from Eric Marston. But let's take nothing away from any of the drivers. The conditions are really, really challenging. And again, I want to give a big shout out to all the drivers, because the standards of driving is such that, all of the drivers have managed to keep it within the white lines and on the tarmac in conditions which would spit you out in a heartbeat.
Yeah, we've seen the consequences for over-exuberance in the smallest mistake. Doesn't even really register as a mistake when he went off.
Whoa! Ray Acosta has done it. He has got it. A 1:47.428. Well done, Ray Acosta.
That is a spectacular lap.
By 1 3/4 100ths, Justin. That's close.
Well, that's actually a fabulous lap. That shows you do not take your eye off the board right to the end, because it is drying. He knew how to push.
Tell you
He
what.
extracted the most out of the
Tell you
car.
what. Jan Bernier, whoa, that was getting close as well. He's just usurped Rob McWilliams and taken P3. So the point there is that until every driver has crossed that line, still things can change. Ray Acosta for the collection then, with a 1:47.428. He will be thrilled to bits with that. Well done, Ray Acosta. The conditions clearly to his liking, and he's only had one podium this season in the North American Series, and he's setting his stall out for what he wants to achieve here at Sonoma this weekend.
Well, that'll certainly give an indication to the next batch of cars coming out for their qualifying. All their coaches and their crew chief will be looking at the performance of the car before anticipating where they're going to be able to, what they're actually aiming for. And the track is definitely creating a wider dry line. But offline, Dave, it is wet as you can imagine. Look, I can see literally reflections in the pavement looking down there. So overtaking, even though this is not about overtaking to get a clear track to do your lap requires a little more commitment than sometimes you're ready to give. So still caution still has to be part of your approach here.
Right, let's take a look at the results in full then, as Ray Acosta banked that P1 right in the closing stages of that qualifying session for our Shell drivers. Well done, Ray Acosta, P1, 1:47.428. Chuck Whittle, P2. Jan Bernier, P3. Then it was Robert McWilliams and John Visca, P4 and 5. Bruce Cleveland, P6. Eric Marston, P7. Out of position, I'm tempted to say, ahead of Osvaldo Gallo. Then it was Ben Gudenzi, Lisa Clark, Mike Luley, and Mitchell Green then. They were the 12 runners in our Copa Shell qualifying. And up next, it's our Pirelli AM drivers that take to the track for their 10-minute qualifying session. 2 sessions to come as we look at John Horsch now in the number 67 car for Ferrari of Vancouver. Already a minute and a half of this qualifying session is done for these drivers. And John Horsch then, who is having a very, very good season. John, who has promised much. I think his best result has been a P4, but he's always been in the good places. Podium, a win, Is it possible this weekend? Never rule John Horsch out of that possibility. The line, as we've got a red flag. Thank you, Justin. I know you've been taking a look around the track. I can see no obvious reason for that at the moment.
No, it must be behind us up in the first sequence of corners. What is that?
Oh, yes.
Yes, I can see the...
Brad
Good news,
Falver.
yeah, the driver is out of the car. It does appear we have some smoke coming up from it, from the trees over there. Boy, these guys go big or go home, don't they?
There it is.
Yeah.
My goodness me.
That is tragic for him. Boy, he just must have connected with the... That's going to go to the... That's going to go down badly. They will react very fast. There is a fire truck up in that sequence of the corner.
That's very, very unfortunate for Brad Falve, who's out of the car. He's absolutely fine. I was saying that this man has promised so much this season. I'm delighted, Amanda Busick, he has delivered here at Sonoma. Pass on my best, Ray Acosta.
Well, there's getting pole, and then there's getting pole as one of the last Ferraris on track to do it. And Ray, what a dramatic moment here as you snuck away pole there at the end. We were talking to you at Turn 11 Hospitality this morning, and you were a bit apprehensive of the conditions. Walk us through that winning lap for you.
You know, it's I love the rain. I mean, obviously, but it was tough. It was great. I mean, I didn't really know where I was in position, and then I just I started pushing harder and harder and harder, waiting for that grip to get, and then just drove the car. You know, I didn't let the car drive me.
Congratulations to Ray Acosta, who will start on pole, guys. And Dave, he makes a good point. Something about these South Florida guys and knowing how to qualify in the rain.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Amanda. Yes, well done, Ray Acosta then. And, yeah, P1, Rotiform pole position, Justin Bell.
He looks like Brad Pitt's stand-in for the new Formula One movie, right? He looks like his body double. He actually looks like a racing driver. Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, should be very pleased with that pole position. Absolutely. To get pole in tricky conditions at Sonoma Raceway, you know, that's your first win of the weekend. That's the way you've got to look at qualifying.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you won your first phase.
There he is with his Rotiform pole position award. Pretty happy with that. Obviously, we have a red flag. The session has been suspended for our Pirelli AM drivers who had just taken to the track. The reason being Brad Falve then for Ferrari of San Francisco. That's the reason for the red flag. He is perfectly okay. He's out of the car. And the cars are all relining back again in the pit lane, ready for when this session resumes. Now, very interestingly, the clock is continuing to count down, which ordinarily that gets stopped when the red flag comes out. So
they were only about a minute into their session, so I'm sure race control will make a call on that in a minute. A fire is not going to, I mean, it's not just the heat. You have to get the car under control, flames under control, stabilize the car, and then you've got to tow it. So I think we're in for a few minutes here. Well, the trucks got there really quickly, so...
Whilst we have those few minutes, let's call upon Matias Perez Compact then to give us his guide on board here at the Sonoma Raceway.
I'm Matias Perez Compact, driver of the number 50 car of AF Corse in the 286 Challenge, and I'm gonna take you on a lap around Sonoma Raceway.
So coming across the start-finish line of Sonoma, we arrived in the first corner flat out in 6th gear, brake slightly, downshift to 4th for the second corner, accelerate onto 4th gear, use all the track on the right, brake, and get a good exit out of turn 3. Onto turn 4 we brake just late, use all the track on the left. This kink we lift a little bit, we arrived into 5th gear on the carousel, downshift to 4th, and just use the throttle to control the front of the car, fighting it, and we accelerate onto this straight. Here is a hard braking zone, we downshift 2 gears, accelerate on this straight, and touch the curve on the inside. Coming to the S's, we go flat out on the first 2, brake slightly to turn the car, and just here a lift also to how to turn the car. Here we are flat out again. We brake slightly again to turn the car on 5th gear and back on power early. And for the last corner, it's a hard-braking one. We turn in late to get a good exit out of it and to finish the lap good. And that's a lap around Sonoma Raceway.
That was very exciting, wasn't it? Seeing in-car footage as he made his way around this, well, one of the most historic racetracks in North America. And it just shows the difference in the dry to these wet conditions when we've watched some of the in-car. Certainly some opposite lock being put on as he fights traction coming out of the horseshoe there. But that was a great lap, David, watching a young talent in... And for me, also showing the capabilities of these cars. It's really the only time, as a former driver, you can imagine yourself and how that car performs when you actually see in-car.
Yes.
Because from the outside, everything looks, is it fast, is it slow? I mean, it all looks a bit benign when you're looking from the outside as a pro. But when you're in, you can actually relate exactly to what they're doing inside the car. And you could just hear the way the car responded to his throttle inputs coming through that very complicated, it's very complex sequence coming downhill. Sometimes a lift is as good as a brake. He just lifted off, got the front traction in. I mean, it really fun to watch. That's what I love about a lot of the modern viewing that we can, multi-platform viewing that we do in sports. You're able to go to the in-cars and stick with them. It's one of the most common complaints about race broadcasting is, let me stick. Well, I want to watch Max Verstappen finish his lap, and here we got a chance to watch a full lap. That was a real treat.
Something I want to pick up on, and having watched that lap, and something that Ray Acosta said, having just set his pole position lap, a throwaway line a little bit. I drove the car. I didn't let the car drive me. I mean, it's a combination of your inputs and what your expectations are. But of course, the car can get away from you, can't it?
Well, that's what I said. I said, are you going to, about one of the guys that was on pole in the other race, in one of the other sessions, is you have to, in the rain, are you behind the car or are you ahead of the car?
Yeah.
If you're behind it, you're reacting. Oh, it's sideways. Oh God, the grip. Oh, look, the water. It's aquaplaning, hydroplaning. I never know the difference. It's either one, but it's making you uncertain. Your nervousness goes up. If you actually grab it by the scruff of the neck and you say, okay, I know coming through here, I'm going to have opposite lock on the way out. I'm anticipating that.
Yes.
You actually become the master of your own destiny, and that is exactly what he was saying. A couple of factors contribute to that. One is how well do you know your car? Two, your level of confidence in yourself. Three, some people, you said it earlier very astutely, some people are just better in the wet. I always like when the conditions are really tough in Formula One and they go out, like a Kimi Räikkönen was always on it. Valtteri Bottas isn't in the fastest car, but boy, when the conditions are crappy at the beginning of a session, the beginning of a weekend, he's always right up at the top because those guys are, they fall out of their crib on sideways, opposite lock. So it's like they know, and some guys are just better.
I know Amanda wants to join this lovely little conversation we're having then about drivers and their relationship with the car, Amanda.
Well, I think about the relationship with the car and also the team's relationship with the car. I'm seeing the line of these 296 get ready for this next qualifying session. All of them currently still having those wet tires on that Ferrari. We've been without precipitation here probably 20-25 minutes now. I am seeing Mateus Perez compact with wet tires on his Ferrari as well, maybe for that next session. Guys, when you're thinking about strategy between a driver decision and a team decision, I'm sure it's that driver that's like, hey, give me those slicks. But when is the opportunity to make that decision? What are you looking at on track when it's going to come down to making the proper choice?
Great point, Amanda. Basically, I would look at your hair to see how it's reacting to your precipitation to know when I would do the right tires. That's basically how technical I go. Not Dave's hair, that's for sure. But as I look out of the window, I think we're one session away from slicks, Amanda. I think this group, you'd have to be super confident to put slick tires on right now. What do you think, Dave?
I think I'm looking at the final turn here, and I'm thinking it's still not ready for slicks. Will it be in a session's time? Perhaps so. But then it's all down to how you feel in the car. And this is a point I wanted to make to you, Justin, with your experience. When it comes to a decision where, you know, the track has evolved, a dry line is beginning to come together. How much of it is your decision? How much of it is it the team's decision? You know, they are looking at all the data that is available to them. And if they can see that the potential is going to be there, you know, surely it is a decision that's made collaboratively.
It is. It's also data-driven. You sit in the top echelons of motorsport. If you get within a certain percentage, 106%, or I can't remember what it is, but when you get into that of a dry time, then you should go to dry slick tires. When the wet, damp running gets into a window, which is statistical based on dry times, you should go over to wet tires. I don't know. What do they run in dry around here? Amanda will know.
Yeah, it's difficult, you know, based on the practice sessions and what we've had, because there are so many different elements to this this weekend. Because we've got you know, if we looked at the right,
okay,
thanks,
131. So when you're running 20 seconds off that, you've got, you know, 18 seconds off that. You're not in that window yet. But the sun has just broken through. I can see it glinting off your head, Amanda. That's fantastic. Is it feeling? You feel the warmth just come in there? This is going to burn it off.
I agree. I think it's going to be one of those decisions you wonder, especially in that Trofeo Pirelli class. These are the guys that, you know, have some of the most experience and the most talent that we're going to see of this qualifying session. I have to think that some of those decisions between team and driver, especially as we, you know, kind of sit here in this red flag at the moment, it's just more and more and more time. I would think there has to be drivers right now that are asking their team, are you sure? Are you sure?
I reckon you're right. We're looking at Cyril Choksi here, who has moved up into the Pirelli AMs from this weekend on. And Cyril Choksi will be perhaps one of those drivers contemplating that. Frank Szczesniak, we can see here in the #1 car, the Ferrari of Austin. Now, I think, Justin, you're right. I think it's going to be a session from now rather than this session. But who knows? Only the drivers and the teams can make that decision and make the right call.
Yeah, and I presume no tire changes are allowed in qualifying? Well, I wonder. I mean, because if that, I mean, I don't think anyone, Amanda would be able to see, I don't think anybody is on slicks right now. That would be a brave call, because as I said,
No.
you cannot overtake. Right, Amanda, you cannot get offline to go by anybody. So maybe that would be one session away. But I'll tell you what, we're going to see them pushing their lap times immensely in this session. We've got, the sun is out now. It's glinting off. There's still water on the exits of these corners if you run wide. But don't forget, they've had the benefit of 50 cars so far that have cleaned the track up for them.
The other thing to consider is when you're on the wet weather tyres, of course, Justin, the wet weather tyres work and work really, really well when they are wet. So you're going to see drivers potentially trying to keep those tyres in an operating window, which might mean that they're taking a less than optimum line just to keep some grip available to them in those tyres as the sun does come down now and begins to dry that track out.
Yeah, the good thing here is there is a lot of water offline, so they'll be able to cool them down. 10 minutes, that's, you know, 6 good laps, so they're not really going to have too much time to abuse the tires, but we will see. It'll be, I mean, this is an exciting qualifying session. I think it's game on, but like you just said, maybe the last lap might not be the quickest if it does continue to dry at an accelerated rate.
Fair point. The reason for our pause in qualifying action is because of a car off, Brad Falver's car, as we look at the number 15 car of Dylan Medler. Now, he's one of the Pirelli drivers who will be going out after this session. So in the next session, let's see if our RF camera can get really close into the rubber here, Justin.
Yeah,
Dylan is a young whippersnapper driver.
They're black and round. No, he's on wets.
Wets.
There we are.
Yep,
Yeah.
wet
Thank you
weathers.
for that shot.
So Dylan Medler then, who's another one of the drivers that racing here in North America and also in Europe as well. A number of drivers do that.
And here's the other thing: the crew chief on these cars has been able to work with the driver. Probably is he giving him a little bit more wing? You know, gliding through the air down the straight. There's straights here. There's no such thing as a straight here. Everything is on a corner. So it's not. So downforce does play a factor. If this was somewhere like Monza or Watkins Glen, you might take a shot at dropping your wing a bit to gain easy time in a straight. But round here, you need all the downforce you've got. So I would presume they don't change the setup much for the wet here. Full wet, if you knew it was raining, then you might go with some changes, soften it up, do what you need to make the car more compliant in the wet. But I don't think that that's too much of the case here. These cars are stiff, they're tight, highly strung. They like the car to have feel. So I think they're pretty much left alone. It'll be good to watch.
We're not far away from the session getting underway. I am being led to believe by those that are in a position of knowing how things are going. And there you can see, as we take a walkthrough of the cars, the Omar Balkasoon car there, car number 33. The car number 5 is driven by Levi, then the Ferrari of Silicon Valley driver. And Amanda, how are things progressing?
I have heard some Ferrari engines turn on here, guys, so I do think that we're getting back to action here soon. But we talk about the biggest variable here, and that is the weather and the sunshine that is continuing to pop out here. It's getting actually rather toasty down here, so you see how these conditions continue to evolve. You were talking about Dylan Medler. If I'm Dylan, I'm going to have someone on my team taking a look at what Roberto Perina is doing and what he's deciding when it comes to these tires. I agree with you. We are one session away from, if those changes will happen, it will be this qualifying session right here, pushing that water off the track to see if it'll happen.
Yeah, you talk a lot of sense.
She does talk a lot of sense. That's why she's down there and we're up here. It's, you know, the reality is the humidity's going to go up. These guys are going to have a bit of sweat on their brow when they finish this one. So is everyone in the pit lane. This will be a very, very interesting session, I predict. Way faster lap times.
I think you're right. I mean, that you know, the cloud has broken. The sun is beating down now as we look at the number 4 car of Tony Davis, then the Continental Autosports driver. You could see the logo of Lakeside Pyro Arts across the side of his car. At Watkins Glen, he and his company delivered what has been described as one of the most breathtaking firework displays on the Saturday evening of that weekend. It was extraordinary. I said to Tony earlier on this weekend, you know, I've seen a lot of firework displays in my life, but that was outstanding. And he said, I'm so pleased you said that. You know, you can sense the passion he has for racing a Ferrari, the passion he has for fireworks as well. You know, when you live that passion, Justin, you know, and these drivers all do it every weekend that we go racing. Their passion for the prancing horse, their passion for these wonderful, wonderful cars, and they're able to live their passion out there on the track. So what's it like for these drivers who have been suspended mid-air, if you will, and having to sit in the pit lane at the moment, probably feeling a tad frustrated that they can't go out there and do it? You kind of psych yourself up for the qualifying session. You're ready to go and do it, and then through no fault of your own, suddenly it's stopped.
You have to have a reset. You have to come in. You're talking with your crew chief on your radio. He's calming you down. The upside here is the conditions are only improving, not deteriorating.
Yes.
When you're sitting there and it's getting wetter, you're like, what am I going to face when I go out? What surprises? How bad is my car going to handle? It's only getting better every second here. So there will be a couple of guys out there that are going, do you know what? I thought I had more of an advantage in the wet. I was quick in the wet practice. I was quick. Now they're going, oh, I've missed my moment because, you know, the fast guys in the dry are going to pit me to it. So there will be a couple of guys that are probably ruining the lack of wet conditions. But for the main part, that it's going their way. They're going to be able to get the most out of their cars.
Of course, we're talking about the wet conditions. Of course, race control play a part in the decisions that are made as well. If they declare it wet, you know, as we see the drivers beginning to get ready in there in the hot lane. I can see through our privileged viewing position that the The Brad Falver car has been recovered, so I'm suspecting that the session is not going to be many moments before it gets underway once again. And it's going to be a busy session with, well, I was going to say 13 cars, make that 12 now that will be out there qualifying. Again, they're going to have very short order time in which to do that. So, Tony Davis, you would expect to see at the sharp end. So you would Dave Musial and Omar Balkasoon. In fact, you can go through all of the drivers and think, yeah, they're going to be at the top end of this session. Well, of course, not everyone can be number one, but that is always going to be the target.
I enjoyed that drone shot. I'm watching that massive drone make its way down pit lane. It's crazy the technology we work with, a live feed from a drone. And that's part of our broadcast palette that the producers are able to pull on now. Just so cool to be able to see that, offering a vantage point that we've never really been able to have before. Really fun. I can see that it definitely is going to get a bit toasty in the cars. Only 10 minutes, well, less than 10 minutes when they go. Interested to know whether they reset the clock or whether it's 9 minutes. 9 minutes, or is it 9:40?
No, that's local time.
I was going to say it's going the wrong way. We'll see in a minute whether they'll restart it with 10 minutes to go.
We saw briefly there the Matias Perez compound car. Of course, he gave us his onboard lap a little while ago in our programming, and incidentally, we're delighted that you're with us and watching this qualifying session. We're live from the Sonoma Raceway, 5th round of the Ferrari Challenge North America for this season, as we look at the back end of Brian Cook's car, the number 3 car. Now, Brian has had a stellar season with 4 wins and 2 P2s. He will be looking to go well here in Sonoma. So, Brian Cook, and colours, of course, paying homage to the hypercar, which, of course, has just been fantastic this season at Le Mans once again. And we look at the number 29 car of Sebastian Mascaro, then the Ferrari of Central Florida car. You like that?
Yeah, I do. That's really good. It's fun. I mean, everybody here literally living out their fantasies. You've got a beautiful Ferrari to go racing in. You can design it the way you want. And it's interesting to see how everyone individually interprets what their racing vision wants to be.
We've often said, you know, when you've got a blank canvas, and when that blank canvas is a Ferrari 296 Challenge car, you know, some wonderful displays of interpretation, rather, of your personality in terms of how you colour your car.
What colour would your race car be, Dave?
It's got to be red. I'm sorry.
Oh, would it?
Yeah. Okay. It's just, you know, I'm a traditionalist.
Okay, well, I'll let you go with that.
Okay, thanks.
I have no clue. I think I would actually go with that, the hypercar tribute paint scheme as well. I like that, because I thought the minute I saw that at Le Mans last year, I was like, all right, that is a significant departure for Ferrari from the traditional livery, and we actually saw it have an effect because the Formula One cars at a couple of races went to that livery in tribute for the Le Mans cars. Talk about things, role reversal. So really a very, very, it's now part of Le Mans history. And that is what Ferrari have achieved, something that few have.
I was with Fred Vasseur in December last year in Abu Dhabi, and, you know, Fred was living and breathing the success of the hypercar as well, you know, and you and I have known him for a number of years through his association with success in motorsport, and of course now team principal of Scuderia, who incidentally they're at Zandvoort this weekend.
Zandvoort, it's the Dutch Grand Prix right now, which they've had some mixed conditions there as well. Yeah. So big race for tomorrow. So these guys, they know the trucks. Literally, they've been told there's minutes to go before they go. All the safety vehicles are in. I can tell by the body language of the official at the top of the grid there that he is getting ready to give them the mark to go, the cue to hit the track.
So it's going to be busy then with those cars out there for their short qualifying session. We are looking at the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers. Now you can identify those when it comes to the race, because the Pirelli AM drivers have the white strip across the top of the windscreen. You can see that on the Frank Szczesniak car here. Frank then, who started this season driving in the 488 Challenge before his 296 arrival, and he was in the car. Frank Szczesniak driving with that number 1 296 challenge car. This is great as we're going down through the grid of cars now. The number 33 car driven by Omar Balkasoon. I was chatting to Omar yesterday. His great fun character is Omar, as he slides the window to give us a thumbs up, which I thought was very pleasant of him. And well done, and we wish you well, Omar, in the qualifying session. Here's Michael Mathis then for Ferrari of Central New Jersey, who prefers to keep his slider closed and focus on what he needs to do, but he gives us a wave nonetheless, which is also pleasant. Michael Mathis then driving the number 5 car, whose a podium has eluded him so far this season. Could it be changed this weekend? Well, for sure it certainly could. And Chris Cagnazzi then, the Ferrari of Long Island driver of the number 19, gives us the thumbs up as well. And the Race for RP logo on the door mirrors of the car. And next we get to the Tony Davis car, I believe this is, and driver of car number 4 for Lakeside Pyro Arts and Continental Autosports, Tony Davis then. And Tony again has had a strong season with a number of podiums and 3 wins as well, including in Montreal and indeed the last race at Watkins Glen. Dave Musial, he gives us a thumbs up as well. Another big character, the Ferrari of Lake Forest driver, whose son, of course, Dave Musial 2.0, races in Trofeo Pirelli. Dave Musial Sr. in the Pirelli AM class. Cyril Choksi then moving up to Pirelli AM and having a conversation with Cyril yesterday, and very much looking forward to the challenge that Pirelli AM will afford him. And Ophir Levy making his debut in the Ferrari Challenge 296. Great to see you here. And great job being done by our cameraman here, as we're able to sort of almost bring the CVs of our drivers, as Sebastian Mascaro is the next that we see. And then back to this homage color scheme to the hypercar that is Brian Cook, the Ferrari of Seattle driver. Brian Cook then with 4 wins from his starts this season. John Horsch, he goes for an all black. For an all black, who's obviously him rewarding the cameraman, who's doing a good job here, and Jay Logan loving this.
It's so cool. They're ready to go, this lot.
We have a great relationship from broadcast to the racers as well, and that's one that's not taking part because that's one of the 488 cars. Okay, so red flag still flying at the bottom of the pit lane, Justin. I have to say, I thought we would have been running by now.
It will not be long. They race control have all the access to the data. There is one rescue truck making its way back down through the S's, heading back down towards the hairpin. So they have to clear these off into their respective positions, and then okay, 2 cars heading out for a reconnaissance lap. Those 2 cars,
I think they were actually coming into.
They're going to come in. Okay,
they were coming into the paddock area. I think.
Apologies for that.
No, not at all. Just behind us. So, yeah.
We're seconds away. I can see that fire truck making its way.
The red flag has disappeared. Look at the marshal is holding the green, Justin.
Let's go. This will fly by. As I predict, we are going to see some really good lap times here. Keep it on the road, guys. Don't overextend, because we do not need another stoppage. But you won't be thinking about that. You'll be thinking about, how can I get pole position?
Of course. And here we go. Green flag is waved then. And the session will get underway right now. And sure enough, it's been reset. So the full 10 minutes, Justin, for our drivers here. For them to get out there and do their qualifying then. And apologies for the slight pause in action. That down to the Brad Fowler car being caught out. And so we have 12 of our Pirelli AM drivers heading out onto this Sonoma circuit, ready to do the best they can in qualifying. It's 2.520 miles, 6 lefts, 6 right-handers, turns 2 and 3 and negative camber, off camber turns That means the inside of the turn is higher than the outside. So all these things ready to really challenge our drivers. Of course, we were here last season, but this season we're here with a new storyboard, really, because the circuit has been repaved, and we are here, of course, with the wonderful 296 Challenge cars. They tentatively make their way out on this outlap then, and
we're in the final few percentage of a wet track on that line. Coming through the left-hander where they were, as they're making their way at the front of the field, that is a full dry line on the apex. So look at the lack of spray coming off the rear tires. This will be great. This will be really good. Tire management will be important. Amanda, what do you got down there?
Yeah, Justin, I'm walking pit lane right now just to see what decisions are happening in that Trofeo Pirelli class. I was talking to one of the race officials. The class that is on track right now, it was deemed a wet qualifying session, so these drivers have to stay out on these wet tires. Now, the next class, that Trofeo Pirelli class that will hit the track, it hasn't been declared yet, so at the moment they have a decision. But whatever decision is made, it has to stay for the full 10 minutes. You are not allowed to come back to pit lane and change tires once you go out for qualifying.
Thanks for clarifying that. That is exactly what these guys are dealing with. So they're going to be just be pushing as hard as they can, Dave. Yes, there's a risk of overheating and running through your tires. In these 5 or 6 laps, not as great a risk.
No, that's a fair point, and it's well made as we watch Frank Szczesniak then in the number 1 car for Ferrari of Austin. And yes, already we are down to 7 minutes. And there you can see, as you cross the brow of the hill, the dry line where it was a drying line and it was 1 car wide. It's now half the track, isn't it?
And very dry right now where we're running through on camera. They're going to have a great feeling from the car, which will suddenly turn to a little slight jelly feeling as they're pushing on the limit. These Pirelli tires will hold up really well through this, but it's dry. It is also going to be drying and improving every lap all the way to the checkered flag. So let's just watch these lap times. They'll be coming in to post their first lap times in short order. Nice clear track for Szczesniak.
Indeed, well pronounced.
Thank you so much. Coming into the final hairpin turn.
Now this is going to be, in my opinion, the wettest part of the circuit.
Absolutely. Generally, as cars were going through here,
different line, you can see.
Different line, yeah, he's seeking water there.
The sound of these cars as they accelerate is absolutely awesome, right below our commentary studio here. So Szczesniak posts the first lap at 1:48.351. So that gives us a benchmark. Now, I'm tempted to say, Justin Bell, that with conditions very, very different now and different to when our session started, as making hay while the sun shines is Michael Mathis there, getting past Omar Balka soon, that we could see a qualifying result that may be different to the norm. Some drivers may be able to take advantage of the vagaries of the weather, and here is the Tony Davis car, the Continental Autosports driver, as he accelerates away. You can see the back end just twitching then.
Yes, he's setting up for his first full flying lap, or finishing his first one, but yeah, this will be fun. These guys are going to enjoy this qualifying.
So the order is Mathis, Szczesniak, then Tony Davis, Cyril Chock, CP4, then Omar Balkasoon and Chris Cagnazzi and Dave Musial. Still to bank times. This man, Brian Cook, is one of them, as he breaks the timing beam and goes 3rd fastest. John Horsch has gone 4th fastest, and we will see the times tumbling as we're into the second half, unbelievably, of this qualifying session already. 10 minutes goes so quickly, and you made the point, Justin, a very worthy point, and that is 5, 6 real meaningful laps.
Yeah, you've got to, you don't apply too much strategy to it, because you don't effectively have to back off to then bank a fast lap. You just keep pushing every lap. Track time is important, getting familiar with where you can push. This will be the area, the least aggressive area, right in front of the Ferrari guests. And remember, this is the place where all your friends and family are watching right there. Yes. So not the place to put a foot wrong, but you look at the speed they're carrying through that first corner now up the hill.
Look at the times how they're coming down. by big margins at this part of the session. So Frank Szczesniak just taken 9/10, well, as near as makes no difference, a full second out of the time from anybody else. And Michael Mathis here, is this going to be an improvement from his P2 position? Well, he's got within 2.5 tenths of Frank Szczesniak. Here comes Tony Davis. Expect this to be the sharp end of the timing chart as well. The Continental Autosports driver is aiming for a 1:47.052 or just below as he runs towards the timing beam now. It's not going to be where he would like it to be. He's a couple of seconds down on where he needs to be. So consider that an installation lap. Consider this the lap there he will push more. Brian Cook carries a lot of speed into that horseshoe. He's got John Horsch right up his trumpet. And they are contesting P3 and P4 in this qualifying session, as the graphics indicate on screen. So Brian Cook then and John Horsch stay P3 and P4. It's Szczesniak from Mathis, from Cook, from Horsch, from Davis. Jay Logan goes P6 ahead of Cyril Choksi, Chris Cagnazzi, then it's Dave Musial. Ophir Levy is P10, then it's Omar Balkasoon and Sebastian Mascaro, two drivers who we would expect to see at the sharper end of the timing screen. And here is Chris Cagnazzi then.
I mean, I think what we're seeing is it shows that it's still wet in a few places. I mean, they're running 15 seconds off their dry qualifying pace would be, so that's a huge delta between that. But they're also, and we can't tell this, how the tires are reacting, how the car's reacting on the dry line coming down, stability-wise, braking-wise. The biggest difference almost in wet tires to dries to slicks is under the braking and under, with so much horsepower, under load accelerating off the corners. That's where you really get the most compromise. So I am not privy to that, not being behind the wheel, but it'll be interesting to see where they level out on the lap times.
Tony Davis then enters the horseshoe then. It's a 1:37 sort of when he was at apex of that. Best time is a 1:47. Here comes Tony then accelerating now towards the timing beam and goes from P5 to P3. So he's improved a couple of places. He's 3 3/4 tenths down on Frank Szczesniak. Here's Dave Musial, another driver that you'd always expect to see up there, and it's P9 and from P9 to P4. So Dave Musial improving. This very much as you expected in the final session, the final laps is where the times are going to improve. As Cyril Choksi goes P1. Bear in mind he's moved up a class for this race weekend. He's racing in Pirelli AM right now and has delivered the first sub 1:47 time, a 1:46.646. So Cyril Choksi, Ferrari of Denver, is currently P1. John Horsch, who we're watching right now, is P7.
He's pushing hard actually on this lap. The car was really looking pretty sporty.
So there is Cyril Choksi, then his best lap, a 1:46.646. Here's Frank Szczesniak then accelerating towards the line. Is he going to wrestle that P1 back again from Cyril Choksi? Not on this lap, he's not. So he was a good bit down on Cyril's time on that lap. He'll go for it again, but it will be his last lap. We're into that last lap sector now, really, Justin, with just 30 seconds remaining on screen.
If you've got anything left in your tank, from a performance point of view, now's the time to reveal it. Obviously, everybody's going to be giving it all they've got on this last lap. But again, in the wet, that fine dance between aggression and completing the perfect lap is a delicate one. So we're seeing with some great driving right here. Literally the top 5 cars 1 second splitting them.
Tony Davis goes P1. I thought when he was at the apex of the horseshoe that it looked quick, and it is quick. He's gone 3 tenths quicker than Cyril Choksi. He goes P1. Here comes Cyril. Is he going to respond? Well, Cyril Choksi then, who spent so much time at the in Copa-Shell, has come into Pirelli AM. Here comes Brian Cook, who's way down the order right now in comparison to where we would expect him to be. This is his final lap.
It's actually not going to be better. Oh no, he's just going to be slightly off.
Well, P4. So it's Davis, Choksi, Musial, Cook then that will occupy the first 2 rows of our Pirelli AM grid. And Tony Davis then, just at the in the embers, if you will, of that qualifying session, that's when he put the lap in.
They should all be pleased with themselves. That was a great run. Giving a lot of feedback. If there's, I know there's multi-category cars under each of these tents run by the different teams.
Yep.
So that data will be able to go back, and there'll be, the engineers will be able to communicate to each other what the track conditions were to assist the next drivers ready to go out.
So Omar Balkasoon crosses the timing line then, and pretty much with the exception of a couple, all of our drivers have gone through. And Tony Davis then with a Rotiform pole position award. Cyril Choksi, a very, very good showing in qualifying, his first qualifying in the Pirelli AM class. He should be very proud of that, I would suggest. And Omar Balkasoon, who is P7. So there we have it. Our session is done and dusted for the Pirelli AM drivers, which means it's just the Pirelli drivers to come with decisions to make in terms of rubber. Now, part of that decision-making process lies with race control, of course, but I reckon they will have been given the option to make the tyre choice.
Well, we're going to have to go to our little meteorite in the pit lane. You're the only one that will know.
Here is the confirmed classification. Tony Davis has done it. P1, Cyril Choksi P2, then it's David Musial, then Brian Cook and Frank Szczesniak. Michael Mathis P6, Omar Balkasoon P7 ahead of Chris Cagnazzi, John Horsch, Jay Logan, Sebastian Mascaro and Ophir Levy. And no time, of course, from Brad Falva. Right, let's go down to Amanda Busick.
And I can see Tony Davis pulling into pit lane too, so we'll get down there for that interview, guys. There were some of the slick tires across pit wall here as the decisions were being made. I was talking to Johnny O'Connell just on his experience and what he would recommend, and he said, well, I would have slicks on, but I don't own these race car. Shortly after that discussion, I did hear that race control has deemed this a wet tire qualifying session for Trofeo Pirelli. However, that means that it will equalize the session. If there was kind of the decisions of tire, we could have seen some drastic changes in numbers, but there will be a consistency, at least with tire, for the last qualifying session we'll see here at day one of Sonoma.
Thank you so much for that update, Amanda. Really, really important. And there is Tony Davis jumping out of the car. Well, not so much jumping as being assisted out of the car, but he's done what matters. He's delivered a 146.327. Now, only 3 drivers in the 146s. They are Tony Davis, Cyril Choksi, and Dave Musial. There is Tony out of the car then, and Amanda will be he's pretty happy with that. Well done, Tony. A pole position award, and of course a very, very valuable point, and that will be important to Tony in his chase with Brian Cook and others in terms of the Pirelli AM Championship for this season. Already the Pirelli cars are out there for their qualifying session, and Justin, as we heard there, that it has been deemed a wet session, and Dylan Medler, who's racing here in North America and also racing in Europe as well. And you can see the minute you put one wheel offline, a lot of water still standing around in places.
You're glad you on wet when you run wide. They're going to know they'll be running faster than this, on slicks. Which is always slightly frustrating. Because you can the cars are designed around slick tires. The absolute maximum threshold of grip and all the dynamics of that. So really interesting to see how these guys are able to manage their tires and push. They may have a tire management issue a little bit over these 10 minutes.
Yes.
Especially in the high-loading left-hander. We just saw them in there, which is absolutely bone dry. So, as I said, under braking, you got to balance it. You can hear the tires actually a little squeaking from the tires. Amanda?
Just talking to Tony Davis about what you guys were just talking about of what the track looks out there, and we could see some water still spraying on the exit of turn 11, and that seems to be exactly where you were saying was still pretty dicey out there. But Tony, you exited with 2 thumbs up. It is your pole position here today. From one year to the next, talk about your evolution as a racing driver, because I know you've battled through some struggles, but here you are.
One on turn 1, no way we could be on slicks. Turn 1 is still, final turn is still quite wet, both the entry and around it. On slicks, you'd have everyone in the barriers. In terms of evolution, I got very, very worthy competition. There's some fantastic drivers. Cook's a great driver, so I've had to work really hard. it's as much mental as anything else. It's really a mental thing where to be able to bring it on quali and race, that's the big focus, honestly.
Talk about the exit here in turn 11. Where else on track should we look to see for this session on these drivers?
You know, I think that's really the only hairy one. That's significantly hairier than anywhere else. Everywhere else is pretty much a dry line. I think, 4 you got to be a little careful on for sure, but that's the only one I'd focus on.
Thank you, Tony. And guys, I'll be right here to watch it.
Hey, thank you so much, Amanda. So, final turn. That's the one that's a bit iffy, but everywhere else, as Roberto Perina goes P1 with a 1:42.605.
So that the proof is in the pudding there. Yeah, I mean, only the driver in the car can give the feedback to us on where it is still, as he said, dicey out there. But, racing has always been about the interaction and communication between the pits and the driver. You can be at Le Mans and they can say, you're going to stay out on slicks, and you go, it is pouring with rain on the back straight, and they go, well, it's not raining here, and you go, well, I'm in the car and I'm telling you.
Yes.
But the data they'll say, you have to stay out. You will lose more time by coming in.
It's really interesting, and I'm learning from you, Justin, that actually, you can look at it and it can be a data-driven decision that actually, factually, you are better off being on what would appear to be the wrong tyre for where you are on the track at the moment, but actually you're on the right tyre.
Yeah, and you have to trust your team. There is, it's a two-way street. You build credit with your team, your crew chief, based on your results, based on your number of correct decisions. When you're a driver and you make a call from inside the car and you tend to be right, your team will be like, well, Dave knows what he's saying. Every time he's said go to slicks, he's been right. The call's been made for them here, so they have to deal with it. But they will be dealing with it, and they're coming down into turn 11. They'll be glad they're on wet tires, but the rest of it they're going to be compromised. But you know what? These are GT cars, albeit incredibly fast ones, but they got 700 something horsepower. So you've got to get all that power to the ground, and certainly the very sophisticated Ferrari electronics will be driver management electronics will be working overtime right now, because there's less rubber on the road. And if you think about the contact patch, if everyone could see me right now, I'm trying to make a square with my hands. The contact patch is only this much, 700 horsepower through 4 of those. And you take that down by 50% with grooves in it, you're actually, all that energy, all that physics has to go through a smaller tire contact patch. So you're asking an awful lot from the tires. But they're pushing like crazy. I mean, 42.6, that's 4 seconds quicker than our last pole sitter. So it shows.
Those blocks of rubber harden, don't they, when they're not being kept cool? And of course, whoa, as Jason McCarthy is sliding that car through the S's.
Yeah, you're going to see some fun driving through this.
Well, regrettably, we've only got 3 minutes left of this qualifying session as Jason McCarthy then, who's currently second fastest for Wide World Ferrari, absolutely, as Justin said earlier, wrings the neck of this car. Let's see him through the final turn here. Now he's got traffic ahead of him. I think it's Roberto Perina that we can see there as he's diving to find the
wet.
To find the wet, to keep those tyres in their operating window. 1:42.805, 605 make that he's looking for. Has he found it? Not quite. Just under 3/10 away from that. Whoa!
Hey!
He's gone around.
That's okay. Come on, stay off the wall, stay off the wall. That's good. That's good.
Oh, that was a save.
It was interesting. He was looking for water coming through as he just for the start-finish line, and I think he did a little bit of the same with his outside front right wheels.
Here it is in replay.
No, that was, I don't know, that was the intersection of talent and grip.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
Nothing really went wrong there. He was just pushing. He wanted to get a better lap. He knew he was 2/10 off, 3/10 off, and he was like, I'm going to make a push.
I'm going to find that time.
No harm, no foul there.
So it is Roberto Perina, Jason McCarthy, Dylan Medler, Matthias Compact, then Dave Musial Jr., Joe Rubo, Michael Petramalo. Top 7 in our Pirelli qualifying so far. And here's Dylan Medler then. 1:42.605 is the best time. There is merely 5/10 between the top 3. Matthias Compact, who treated us to his hot lap in our program just a few moments ago, is heading into turn 11 right now. So Matthias Compact on the brakes. Again, just seeking a little bit of moisture to try and keep those Pirelli wet weather tyres within their operating window. And he accelerates out now. This could be a reasonable time from Matthias Compact. Will it be a pole sitting time? I'm not sure. And sure enough, actually, it's a way away from where I thought it was going to be.
Cars are looking squirrely. That's because they are literally at the maximum point of grip for a wet tire in these drying conditions. By the way, that little spin we just saw wouldn't have happened on slicks.
No.
You don't just spin mid-corner on hot slicks on a dry track. So that's a consequence of the tire moving underneath him. These guys are actually, I doubt whether they're going to jump out and say that was the most fun qualifying I've ever had.
No.
Because they're not able to extract the most out of the cars.
Very poetically, the lead gap is 296. That's nice, isn't it?
Really
We
good.
couldn't have scripted that much better, could we?
Well, I did put in a request for that. That's rather nice.
Dylan Medler then currently third fastest, and Dylan looking for an improvement. He's got a banker time that's better than a 1:42.605, and he's only got this lap to do it because the checkered flag is out. Through the S's he comes. Dylan Medler then for the collection. A very, very talented young driver is Dylan. It's Roberto Perena. Jason McCarthy, who we saw pirouetting up the hill just a few moments ago, is second fastest. Dylan Medler, third fastest. He heads towards the final turn now. Is he going to be on target for that 1:42.605? You can hear the Pirelli squealing under protest. He accelerates out now. 1:42.605 is what Dylan is chasing. And he breaks the timing beam with 6 1/3 tenths down, so he stays P3.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll be disappointed with that. There was nothing more he could pull out of that car. That, it seems, in that 42s is what you do around here at the level of dryness that we have at the track. So, well done, guys. It was a good qualifying session.
We were talking about points-making prizes. If no one bests Roberto Perena in this qualifying session, there are still cars that are out there, he will go to the top of the championship table by 1 point. So it proves the point. Having that point for pole position can be critical come the end of the season. No, it's critical in this particular regard, of course, but Roberto Perena, Jason McCarthy, Dylan Medler, Dave Musial Jr. Here comes the Ferrari of Long Island driver Joe Rubo then. He breaks the timing beam with a 1:40. What was that time from Joe Rubo? A 1:44.613. Was his best time. Michael Petramalo just behind him. We are just about done and dusted now. Jason McCarthy is still out there now. He, of course, had that pirouette going up the hill, and as you quite rightly said, Justin, that wouldn't have happened on slick tyres. It was just as he was pushing a little bit harder, and those rubber blocks on the wet weather tyres move, don't they, as they harden.
Yeah.
And
it's very hard for...
Let's get the results of our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli qualifying then, and they will appear magically on screen. Roberto Perena takes the point and takes the Rotiform Pole Position Award. Good day for the Perena family. P1, Jason McCarthy P2, Dylan Medler P3. Then it's Dave Musial Jr., Matthias Perez Compact. Dare I say it, out of position, I think, P5. Then Joe Rubo, Michael Petramalo, and no time from Martin Burrows, which was predicted he had an off in one of the practice sessions. They've repaired the car. He said, I don't think it's going to be ready for quali, Dave, but we'll be ready for the race.
Well, that was a very nice, tidy... Look at that view, tidy qualifying. I mean, only 2 incidents, big ones. No drivers, obviously, no effect on the drivers.
And that's credit to those drivers,
really
Justin.
is, yeah, very much so. And this is setting up for a really good afternoon of races. The weather is going to be spectacular. I think the rain will have cleared, and Amanda can take off her rain jacket and be back, be back to some really good racing. This track is... You don't want that intermediate flux conditions where you're, am I wet, am I dry?
Right.
In racing, you want it wet or you want it dry.
Or dry.
And they're going to have dry for the racing, and a couple of people out of position, as you say, so which makes for really fun overtaking.
Absolutely. I can't believe it. Local time, 10:13. And our qualifying's done and dusted. You and I have.
We did a great job. That was hard work. How you feeling? I need another cappuccino.
Look at Amanda heading towards the Ferrari of Seattle car right now, and Roberto Perina then in the number 55 car has put it P1. They're a lovely family, and yeah, Roberto will be very, very pleased with that. And Amanda is standing by to get words with him as he's congratulated. Of course, Massimo, his nephew, has already put it pole position in the 488. And yeah, the Ferrari of Seattle team and Scuderia in 1999 going to be very, very happy with the family's performance out there on track, having done a good job. That was Pirelli qualifying. The Pirelli drivers all running with that red strip across the top of the windscreen. That's how you'll be able to identify them in the race when the races come back this afternoon, hopefully with settled and calm weather conditions to greet those drivers and us to call the action. And yeah, well done indeed. So well done to all the drivers who, in very challenging conditions, held it together. And Roberto Perina is with Amanda Busick now.
And Roberto, it's fitting that these pole position awards come with the outline of the track, because you did master it here today in this last session, and that what was a wild morning of conditions. You came in here tied for points. You are now the points leader by 1. How important are these sessions going forward between you and Dylan?
Every point's going to matter at this point. We've got a long 3-4 races left, and then we go to Italy, but every point's going to matter. It's very tight. He's racing well all season, and I'm trying to do the same, so it's just going to come down to the end. But every point counts, and I'm just going to enjoy right now, because it was just a mega session. It was super fun to drive the car and enjoy this track, enjoy the car, mixed conditions, throw the car around. That's how I like to drive.
Nice job, Roberto. You know, it has to be a point of confidence, right, drivers, when you become out number 1 in a session like that. Well done, Roberto.
Well done indeed, and thanks to you, Amanda, for keeping us abreast of everything that was going on in that qualifying session from a meteorological point of view. From Justin Bell and from myself, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you join us for our race programs this afternoon, all getting underway just a shade after 12, around about 12:20, 12:25. Please join us for those. From all of us here for the moment, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.